Hello and welcome to The Life You're Made For. I'm your host, Dr. Heather Pinney. Often our world feels reactive, confusing, and chaotic. On this show, we're going to slow down together. Take a breath, listen, and learn. We'll be joined in conversations with influential thinkers who will help us make new connections, understand our unique potential, check the beliefs we hold, and learn how to overcome unexpected challenges. I know that each and every one of us holds our own inner clarity, confidence, and courage, what I call 3C living and leading. So let's go after it together. I'm cheering you on. To dive deeper into the tools we discussed today, join the Grace Space Collective by subscribing to my emails. Go ahead and head on over to heatherpinney.com right now to get a free preview of my book, Grace Space, delivered to your inbox. Now let's get started. Hello. I am looking forward to having a conversation with all of you today. And really, this is a space and a time to just be able to start talking about what it means to come home to you and this idea that you get to belong to you. I really wanted to just do a solo podcast conversation around this because it's what I do in so many of my talks when I go to join different groups and organizations and teams. A lot of them want this conversation around how to belong to themselves and really this idea of coming back home to themselves, living an authentic life. We all want that. We all want that, but we're not quite sure how to get there or how to do it. So let's have some time together where I can tell you a little bit of what my experience has been in working with people, and really one of the conversations that I have almost on a daily basis about how to belong to your sense of self so that you can live an authentic life as a leader and all the roles we play. Parent, maybe a friend, spouse, whatever it is that we are signing up for in this world. It's us stepping into a life that says, hey, I'm going to live my best life and I'm going to really belong to me. So during this time, let's talk a little bit about what it looks like to live with greater clarity, greater confidence, and also just greater courage. And we'll discuss what rest can do that actually restores the clarity, the beliefs that shape your life that really impacts your confidence. And then the small actions that help you show up as your truest self that really is connected to our courage. Courage is all about taking action. And this is so transferable for home or for work. It's everywhere. So it's most importantly, though, I really want you to kind of lean into this because it's not about fixing yourself. It's never about fixing yourself. I don't believe humans are broken. It's more about remembering who you are and how you are called to show up in this world. Hence the title, The Life You're Made For. So this is a conversation I'd love to have as we start wrapping up this series for the year. And I would just invite you to lean in, slow down a little bit, maybe stop this conversation to stop and reflect on something. And I want to give you just some words, some experiences, some stories to chew on. And I want to start with this idea. I hired a coach myself. I loved working with him. And one of the things he said to me, I remember I was showing up, one of our conversations, and I was feeling just a bit morose and just tired and saying, I just feel like I don't belong anywhere. And I remember him looking at me, leaning in and just saying very clearly, what's wrong with getting to belong to yourself? And I'm telling you, it was so simple. It was worth its weight in gold. But it was such a powerful statement for me that really impacted that next stage of my life where instead of looking for where to belong, really understanding how to cultivate my own sense of belonging for me. And in that space, inviting people in to belong with me. But instead, you see how there's a shift from giving away your power, trying to figure out where to fit in and how to belong. And this is a nod to Brene Brown's research. Every human has a deep desire for belonging, so I don't want to dismiss that. It's just that we have to hold this tension, this balance where we can spend the majority of our energy on figuring out how to belong in spaces. Or we can balance it with, I get to belong to me. And so I'm creating a space around me. It really was the basis for writing my latest book, Grace Space, when I began to realize, yeah, I want to create spaces where people feel belonging. They feel that belonging because we are questioning instead of accusing. We're responding instead of reacting. We're trusting instead of fearing. We're offering freedom versus control. We're having constructive conversations, not destructive conversations. So do you see how this then sense of belonging, how we serve humanity with it, really comes from a deep inner sense? And here's the interesting thing. Once you really own your own center of belonging, you create spaces of belonging around you. It feels a little counterintuitive. But once I shifted away from trying to figure out where I belonged in this world and more into creating my own sense of belonging to my sense of self, I began to attract a lot more different circles and people that connected with how I wanted to show up in this world. And it really grew my community, it grew my clients, it grew my business, it grew my personal life and friendships, everything. Even how it related to my family members, my spouse, my kids, because there was this commitment that I want to show up the best possible way versus trying to figure out how to fit in or maybe get some of the validation from others because we are having a hard time giving it to ourselves. So that's what a little bit of this conversation is about today. And I thought I would open it up with reading the book that kind of started it all, The Bracelet. So go ahead and just relax. But I want to read this storybook, and you can find it on Amazon. But it's an allegory. And as we know, we can remember stories. We can remember allegories versus maybe a 3-paragraph essay or a book. It's this idea of a story that really draws us in, and what that's doing from the neuroscientific point of view is it's engaging the right side of our brain. And when our right side of our brain is engaged, our emotional intelligence is engaged. And when our emotional intelligence is engaged, it enhances our actual mental intelligence, our IQ. So I really like to use story as a way to engage that right side of the brain. And then you'll see me kind of move into the discussion around the story. All right, so settle in and lean back. This is called The Bracelet. I dedicate it to my daughter, Selah, who I say is my sweet, strong, and sensitive daughter. You are one of the best gifts I've ever received. This book was always meant for you, for us. Please remember you are the dazzling author of your own story, Mom. There once was a little girl, and she loved to play outside. She would watch the birds in their nest, hunt for eggs, create little clubs with her friends on the great rock, and design all kinds of beautiful art. And at night, she would sneak outside to lie on her back and watch the stars. In the summer months, she would run through the grass barefoot and make up games to play in the evening with her friends. But her favorite enjoyment was swinging from the great tree on her tire swing. She would climb the hill to the tree where her tire swing awaited, and as it carried her back and forth, she would throw her head back and feel the breeze on her face and let it blow her hair. And in these moments, she felt most free. The little girl was gentle and kind, yet passionate and wild. Then one day, she received a special gift from someone who loved her very much. The giver solemnly handed her a beautifully wrapped box, and as she opened it, the giver explained the great honor bestowed upon her. It was a beautiful gold bracelet to be worn by the little girl at all times. For you see, the little girl was growing up and could now handle the responsibility that came with this beautiful gift. The giver wanted the little girl to feel loved and know her invaluable beauty. And with this gift came the understanding to honor both the giver and herself by wearing it at all times. The little girl took this responsibility very seriously, and she loved her gold bracelet. She would watch it shimmer and shine in the sun, and she would fall asleep holding it as it rested on her arm. She felt loved, noticed, valuable, and cherished. As the little girl grew, there were many givers in her life, and with each passing season, she received more and more bracelets from givers who loved her and from those that wanted her love. Her arms grew heavy from the bracelets, and soon she had to stop running barefoot through the grass or playing on her beloved tire swing. As winter faded into spring, the little girl grew into a young woman. And with this passing, there was great celebration with many more bracelets given to her. As she opened the many bracelets, she began to feel her joy fade. She realized that each giver expected her to wear their gift at all times. She continued to smile and thank the givers, but inside she began to grow fearful. She was fearful of dishonoring the givers, and she was weary from the responsibility of wearing so many bracelets on her arms. Already her arms felt heavy, and with each added bracelet, she was able to do less and less. But not wanting to hurt the givers, she continued to smile and slide the bracelets up past her elbows. And the givers all nodded with pleasure as they smiled great smiles. One day, as she was quiet and alone in her room, a beautiful bird outside her window caught her eye, and she longed to run outside. She wanted to follow the bird and find out where it lived, just as she had done often when she was young. A forgotten longing stirred deep within her. As she ran outside to explore, she stopped short from the weight of all her bracelets. And with a deep sadness, she stared after the bird until it was a small speck in the distance. After standing still in the sun for a long while, she finally turned back. She tried again the next day when the longing rose, and she thought of her tire swing. She made it to the top of the hill, but was unable to swing because of her bracelets. And after other attempts, she stopped trying. It was impossible to do what she loved with the many bracelets. However, she dared not take them off, for she did not want to dishonor her givers, and she liked how they had begun to make her feel valuable, cherished, and loved. Who was she without the bracelets? She no longer knew. The young woman became dutiful to the expectations of others and continued to wear the bracelets as she tried to take comfort in her responsibility. She stopped looking out the window. She stopped going outside. She stopped dreaming of beautiful things. She stopped playing. She stopped feeling free. She looked to her givers for love and approval, and on the inside she began to disappear. No one wanted the little girl who ran free and wild. No one misses her, she thought. I must be a woman with many bracelets because this is who people love. This is now who I am. So the young woman became embarrassed of who she was as a little girl and collected more and more bracelets to hide who she had been. She even began to give them to herself. But with each passing season, the sadness within her grew until she could contain it no longer. She longed to stop disappearing, and she longed to be free again. But most importantly, she longed to be cherished for who she was before she had been given all the bracelets. One night, she sneaked outside and lay under the stars, and as she rested there, she heard a voice on the wind. Take off your bracelets. I did not give them to you. Who are you? The woman cried. I am the giver of life, responded the voice. I give all and I create all. I created you without bracelets and I never gave you any. Instead, I gave you your spirit. It is a spirit that is wild, tender, gentle, and free. Take off your bracelets, for they dishonor the greatest gift you've ever been given. Your beautiful, free spirit, and they dishonor me, spoke the gentle voice on the wind. It was then that the woman realized she had a choice to make. Shall I take the bracelets off and risk the displeasure of many, she thought? Or shall I honor my beautiful spirit and seek the pleasure of the greatest giver of all? And with that thought, the weary woman fell asleep under the stars, asking the giver of all good things to give her the courage to love her greatest gift of all, her spirit. I love this allegory, and I'll tell you why. I've seen the human spirit rise. I have seen the human spirit crushed. I have seen the human spirit broken. I have seen the human spirit joyful. The human spirit is what really makes up who we are. So how we care for the human spirit is everything. And that's why I wanted to write this allegory. Many people think it's a children's book for children, and I will say it spans the generations. Children get it, adults get it, seniors get it, teenagers get it, because we're all looking for that freedom that comes from spending time in our tire swing. And so I want to step into how this book sets us up to really step into 3C living and leading: clarity, confidence, and courage. And in the work that I do, whether I'm doing a workshop around this or whether I'm speaking one-on-one with a client, I have clients that show up on a daily basis saying, hey, I need help with my bracelets. Keep in mind that bracelets are neither good nor bad. It's just we're not made to wear a ton of them. And if we wear too many of them, they stop allowing us to step into the freedom and the passions and the purpose that we're made for. They may come to me saying, hey, I need help with my tire swing. I need help finding that voice on the wind. I need to be able to slow down and stop. And I think that's where I want to jump in. Let's start with this idea of clarity. When we think about clarity, I will tell you right now, in the work that I do, it feels very counterintuitive because some people will say, I got to run faster. I got to do more. I got to feel my schedule. I got to say yes to more things and the clarity will come. And I will tell you, it's the very opposite. It's only when we rest. So if we look back at this allegory, it's when she's on her tire swing that she begins to find her clarity. And when the tire swing is removed from her life, the very thing that gives her joy, she's got this clarity that she can't get to her tire swing. I want you to see this idea of tire swing as an active rest. How we actively rest. It could be something like taking a walk, could be doing art, could be listening to music, it could be hanging out with a friend that really supports caring for your spirit. It could be a myriad of things, woodworking, anything that gives you joy and makes you feel like you're on your tire swing. I often tell people, you found your tire swing if you've lost sense of time. When I get lost in a project that I love, it feels like my tire swing. It could be painting, it could be gardening, it could be doing something that really gives me a lot of joy in life. I'll look at the clock and I'll be like, has 3 hours just passed? Or, my goodness, an hour's already up. I thought it was 10 minutes. So, and that's another way to find your tire swing is really going back to your childhood. What you love doing. I remember when I was an early young mother to toddlers, boy, one of the things I loved doing was just lying down with a book and falling into just a great story. Well, when I had 2 kids, you know the kind of books I started reading? How to be a better parent, how to raise toddlers, how to parent intuitively. Awesome, great books. But I lost the joy of some of the reading, which my tire swing was. I wanted to fall into a great story. I wanted to fall into something like The Lord of the Rings. And I wanted to fall into a beautiful story like maybe Aslan and the Wardrobe. C.S. Lewis's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. There's so many beautiful stories out there that I was missing. So I changed my thinking. And I remember when I put the kids down, I would reach for a book that told a story, not a book that helped me be a better fill in the blank. That's just one example of returning to my tire swing and monitoring the bracelets. I look now into my work. I remember in the spaces that we live and lead in, we want this clarity. And owning my own company, I've got this beautiful, wonderful problem that I have, which is I've got too many awesome opportunities. It's the shadow side of success, I say. There's so many things I want to say yes to, but I can't anymore. When I first started my company about 15 years ago, I was like the person in the front row with the hand up saying, pick me, pick me. And now I've got so many awesome opportunities. I work with so many different clients and groups and organizations and speaking opportunities, books I'm writing, podcasts I'm having, wonderful, fun stuff. But I've had to monitor my bracelets. And there's been times when I've gotten a little out of balance where my bracelets were going up past my elbows. And I was like, okay, I need to say no to this project, or I need to say no to this opportunity. And it's a way to constantly check your bracelets and make sure that you're monitoring your work-life balance. And that comes from spending time in your tire swing. So that's an active rest. You'll notice there was a second type of rest, which was the contemplative rest. And that's what I call time under the stars. This might be sitting down to really journal, think through something, might be having a confidential conversation with someone you really trust, a trusted advisor in your life, a mentor, coach, a friend that you trust. Could be very just sitting down and making sure that you're asking the right questions. I often say you ask questions like, what is wrong with me? You will get very good at answering that. You want to start asking questions like, what is right with me? You will get very good at answering that. I want to see you practice something that you want to get good at. And as you look at stepping into the life you're made for and increasing your clarity, it's all about what I call restorative rest. And I like playing with the words with that, and you'll see it in the first several chapters of my book. It's the very first thing I start my book out with. In the life you're made for, give yourself a permission slip to rest, because I already know that it's in the rest that clarity will come. And then keeping in mind, active rest and contemplative rest are the two types of rests. What I encourage clients to do, and this will be a reflection part, and I'll give you a reflection opportunity for both the clarity and the confidence as well as the courage. And I would say for the clarity piece, here's your reflection. If you want to sit down and really write down what gives me so much joy, that's your tire swing. Call it tire swing. Think about what it is that gives you joy. It makes you feel like you losing time. It makes you feel this peace inside. It's caring for your spirit, the most important aspect of who we are as humans. And then the second part is, how do I like to do more contemplative rest? Is it journaling? Is it meditation? Is it conversations? Is it prayer? Whatever it is that you do to kind of start moving that contemplative rest forward, it allows you to start getting the clarity you need. And in that contemplative time, it's where you want to start asking really good questions. What am I longing for? What do I want more of? What do I want less of? What do I want to invite in? What do I want to reject? And this is actually an exercise I've started doing with every group that I work with. I will start the talk, whether it's a 2-hour workshop or whether it's a week-long conference or a weekend retreat. I will ask everybody in the room, hey, what do you want to invite in? And I hear such beautiful things like peace, compassion, grace, kindness, clarity, confidence, courage. And then I'll ask them, hey, what do you want to reject? And I'll hear things like defensiveness, unkindness, confusion, anxiety, fear. It's really showing people that you have the clarity of how you want to show up in your life. Own it. Every space you walk into, own it. Whether you are at home with yourself, whether you are stepping into work, whether you are interacting with your barista at your local coffee shop, I don't care where you're at, really start being cognizant of how you're owning that space. The second piece is that confidence space. Oh, confidence is all about our beliefs. There are limiting beliefs that we all hold that hold us back. I will use the example of myself with starting my coaching company. I came straight out of academia as an educator, and I was successful in that field, but I really felt this longing to teach more of what I wanted to teach on. And academia was becoming bracelets that I didn't want to carry. But boy, that is a scary space to be. And I had to, before I took any kind of step forward in moving out of my field that I had gotten training in, I really had to stay in this space of saying, what do I believe? And some of the beliefs I realized, and this is an exercise I encourage you to do, I wrote down these beliefs that I thought, what if nobody hires me? What if I fail? What if I go back and get my doctorate, but I'm not even successful in what I do? A lot of what ifs. And there's a lot of this fear that starts creating these limiting beliefs. I don't have what it takes then to create a company. I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before. And I think as you start sitting in those false beliefs, I like putting a big old X on them. I write them down. I'll put an X on one side of my journal, and then the other side of the journal, I'll write my true beliefs. And sometimes you only need one or two. For me, I believe in a power higher than myself. So I got to say, I am being led and guided. That mitigated and really crossed out all the other false beliefs that wanted to haunt me and taunt me and tell me that I couldn't show up for my life. But isn't it weird? It comes from within. Reminds me of that scary movie of The Call is Coming from Inside the House. Same thing here. It's coming from within, telling us we can't do what we secretly long to do. It could be stepping out into a relationship you've always wanted. It could be stepping into a job, a project that you've wanted to do, a new hobby you've wanted to try, a conversation that you're too scared to have. There's things that we long for deep down, and it's that confidence piece where we have to really explore the beliefs swirling with them. And so I think as you step into that confidence exercise, really being aware of the beliefs you're telling yourself, and I'm telling you what, they get louder and louder as we transition and change in life. I'm moving into a new transition myself. I've launched my 2 adult children. I'm getting more opportunities to speak and to do different things and to travel. And I'm trying to decide, is this a bracelet that I want to wear and keep? Or is this a tire swing? Or what is this for me? And I'll tell you, it's the weirdest thing. Some things, the very things that you love, can become a bracelet that you need to get rid of. But as you're aware of whether it's morphing into a tire swing or the tire swing's morphing into a bracelet, you now have language for that. And you're saying, wait a minute, this was something I loved at one time and now I don't like it anymore. We are never the same person with every passing day. No day, no matter how many days you live on this earth, is exactly the like. We live with this false belief, though, that we get to set up the way we think about life and it's all just going to stay static. The true belief really here is that life is always changing. So how we adapt and change with it and how we prepare for some of the new experiences we want to have. One of my true beliefs is life is a classroom. That really helped me address the false belief of, what if I mess up? What if I fail? I can't disappoint. I can't fail. Well, if I'm focused on that, I'm really going to grow a belief system around very minimal risk. But as I shifted my belief away from that into this true belief that life is a classroom, my curiosity grew. My acceptance for not getting it right the first time grew. My permission to allow myself to explore and experience things, that completely grew to a next level. And what do you think that did with my life? My life got bigger. And here I am at another crossroad where trying to balance my company with my kids and a growing family, they're all launched. So I'm at this other crossroad going, what are my beliefs around this new transition? So there's a chapter in my book, The Life You're Made For. It's just camping at the crossroads. You know, what are you doing when you come to the crossroads? And I talk about 3 different personality types. There's the pausers who sit down and camp, kind of roast their marshmallows and enjoy the crossroads. And they're not going to go north, south, west, or east until they've got their clarity. You've got the melters, what I call them, which they're melting down with anxiety and they're just fretting and fretting and they're just standing there and they're just anxious because they don't know which way to go. And you got the speedies who are just speeding through the crossroads. They don't care. They're just trying to get there fastest. We want to be pausers at the crossroads. And that's really a belief system as we look at confidence. So the last C is courage. This is where we have to step into taking action. Man, this is where courage meets our ability to take a step forward. Courage is needed. It's a fuel to do something differently in life. And I like talking about courage as a little bit more of that last step to that perfect trifecta of 3C, living and leading. Because one of the things we can get wrong, usually more in our youth, but we take that big leap of faith and we are completely engaging our courage. And I want to say, oh, wow, great courage. But do you have your clarity yet? Do you have your confidence, like the beliefs that are impacting your confidence? Do you have that yet? And so I'm a big fan of making sure that your clarity is increased and your confidence is really engaged before you step into that courage and take action. But make no mistake, I often say that you can have all the clarity and the confidence you need. And I've worked with people with this. And I've watched them continue to resist and avoid an action step that's aligned with their clarity and their confidence. I liken it to skydiving. We go up in the plane and we've prepared for this. Our clarity is our parachute. Our confidence there is the plane and the pilot and maybe a person that we're jumping with. But it's really that reality of, I'm ready. I prepared for this. But what would happen if you're just clung to the edge of the plane and you never jumped? And the plane lands, it circles the jump zone, keeps circling the jump zone, but you're not landing, you're not jumping. And you begin to recognize, I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. And the plane lands. And you go up again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Well, I'll tell you what happens. Your courage muscle begins to atrophy. Your courage muscle is something that you need to develop. I will tell you now, the jumps that I'm taking today is significantly bigger jumps than they were 15 years ago. But I had little baby jumps. You know, heck, maybe you're not even going up in a plane. Maybe you're just trying to cross a bridge. But you're getting that clarity on which bridge you're going to cross. You're getting the confidence, you're checking your ability and your beliefs around crossing the bridge. And then one day you'll go up in a plane. But I will tell you this, I've watched people jump and the satisfaction and the joy that comes from finally taking that leap once they've been working on their clarity and their confidence is so powerful because it grows the courage muscle. And the opposite is also true. I've watched people continue to work on their clarity and confidence, and some of them are still working on it. I remember saying once to a client, you have all the clarity you need, you have all the confidence you need. You just have to take a step forward. That's the courage piece. So when we look at clarity, confidence, and courage, again, clarity is really connected to how we rest, how we find our tire swings, how we balance those bracelets. The confidence piece is really looking at the beliefs around what are our bracelets? Why are we still wearing them? What is telling us that we have to still wear them? Who gave them to us? Are they bracelets we want to keep? Are they bracelets we've outgrown? And the beliefs that we start forming around why we carry those bracelets that prevent us from doing what we love in life. And then the courage piece is all about, what action step do I want to take? Now that I have gotten the clarity I've needed, I've increased my confidence. What action steps do I want to take based on that? And that's the courage. So those are the three areas. And as you look at the clarity, I'll give you a reflection question. What is your tire swing? I would encourage you to sit down and journal some of this, write some of this down, talk it out with a friend. Really get clarity on what your tire swing is. And then in the same vein, get clarity on what are some of the bracelets you're wearing. And expand on that. Are they bracelets you want to continue to wear? Are they bracelets you've outgrown, you want to take off? Are they bracelets that were given to you by a giver that was toxic? Are they bracelets given to you by someone who was meaning well but doesn't really know you? I don't know, but you want to take that time to assess and get clarity around your tire swing and your bracelets. The confidence reflection question is, what belief do you want to invite in? What belief do you want to invite in? Separate out the beliefs that are helping you and what I call the false beliefs separate out the beliefs that are harming you and what I call the false beliefs. And then see if you can move it into a true belief. I will warn you that this is the hardest part. But you can anchor your true beliefs into something. It could be a song. It could be a piece of scripture. It could be a poem. It could be a piece of art. It could be a promise made. I don't know. Everyone is on their journey. But there is something that's whispering to you, a voice on the wind that says you're made for more. You're made for a purpose. You get to anchor your beliefs in that awareness that is calling you out. And then that last piece of reflection is the courage is where do I want to take action? What's one action step I could set today based on my clarity and my confidence from this time? And this is, again, what I call 3C living and leading. And I journal these 3Cs quite a bit. I will just sit down and write the word clarity. Like what's becoming clear to me today? I'll write whatever it is that's in front of me. Confidence, I'll write it out and say, what am I believing? And then courage, I'll write down, what action do I want to take on this? The confidence, sometimes I have to spend a little bit more time. And again, I'm a person of faith, so I love using the confidence section to pray. What beliefs are holding me back that I don't want holding me back anymore? And what beliefs do I want to reach for? And do I want to develop more faith around? And these are actually, I've got really close friends in my life, and I call them my heart friends because they're right up next to my heart. But they're the ones I will shoot a quick text to and say, hey, here's the true belief I'm standing in. Here's the false belief I'm rejecting. And that's how they stand in that with me. And that's how they check in with me. That's how they support my accountability that I'm holding myself accountable for. And it's also how they will stay with me in it. They will ask me, they will check with me, they will pray with me. Whatever it is, I want to encourage you that you don't have to go it alone. And I guess that would be the biggest myth as we look at 3C living and leading. You may hire a professional that will help walk you through this. I have 3 coaches right now. One who's helping me with my writing, one who's helping me with my physical body, and one who's helping me with growing my company. There's 3 different coaches right now I am engaged with because I want to level up. And these are people of expertise. They're people of grace, not shame. They're standing with me in my true beliefs, and they're standing against the false beliefs. They're bringing their own true beliefs to the table. And so I think I want to encourage you too, that as you're pushing through, one of the things I often say is everybody wants breakthrough until they have to go through the journey of breakthrough. It's a vulnerable journey. It's a haunting journey. It's exhausting. And one of the saddest things is when I watch people try and go it alone. And I'm going to point all my fingers back. I've done it alone and I've done it with people. And I tell you what, when I've done it with the right people that are very hooked into good, true beliefs about themselves and about me, and they're supportive of the process, man, my whole journey accelerates. I get to level up. It's another chapter I have in my book talking about leveling up. It's hard to level up when you're by yourself. It's hard to level up when you're trying to push through. Don't be afraid to hire an expert that has gone before you and serves as an advisor. But I will say be selective. If at any point you feel like there's a connection around shame versus grace, that's why I wrote the whole book, Grace Space. In the work that I do, there's some amazing coaches, but there's also some shame-based coaches that have done harm. And this is with every profession, right? And teachers, we've had great teachers and we've had harmful teachers. Counselors, great counselors and harmful counselors, pastors, you name it. In some of these helping professions, doctors. Be selective of who you're choosing to invite in your journey. Get the highest standard. People who are people of grace, grace space. People who choose to trust, not fear. Connect versus protect. Respond versus react. These are all aspects of grace space. Look for that. And also, be that type of person. When you become a person of grace, you will attract people of grace. And that's why I wrote the book, Grace Space. I wanted people to feel like they were empowered to have the choice of the space they carried around with them 24/7. You don't have to wait for a safe space. You get to be that safe space. You get to be even a higher level, which is offering grace to this world wherever you go. Whether you're leading a company, whether you're leading a classroom, whether you are leading a home, we're all leading something to some degree. Own that leadership and own the space that you want to create. And that's where you're going to start really finding the life that you are made for. because it all goes back to returning home to your sense of self and remembering that you always get to belong to you. All right, my friends, I'm going to leave us there. Love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out. Email me, coaching@heatherpenny. Love to hear any thoughts you have on this. Love to hear experiences. And just know this. As always, I am cheering you on. Take care, everyone. Did today's episode resonate with you? Rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe to receiving emails at heatherpenny.com so you never miss a moment of growth. Cheering you on.